Hello, and happy Wednesday, everyone. I am right here every Wednesday at 8:35 p.m. Eastern. Welcome to my YouTube channel where today we're talking about boost your executive presence, 6 hacks that you need to know. And I also am asking you a question. Should you fake it until you make it? That's a question we're going to be answering today, right? So I'm Dr. Twanna, and I'm your career coach. I am so thrilled to have you join me today. And thank you as well to all of you who are watching the replay. So today we have a really important topic, and I want to be sure that we jump right in today to executive presence. 6 hacks that you need to know about. These are the 6 things that you need to know, right? And so, yes, I've asked the question, can you fake it till you make it? And we're going to be talking about that one, right? We're going to also be talking about that one a little later on in this live session, okay? I do welcome your comments. And so saying, let me pop over to the comment section here. I do welcome your comments. So go ahead and put them out there. And I'm going to scoop my comments over there. So all I got to do is look over there and look for my comments that come in. And so comments and or questions, I am happy to have both of them. And you can go ahead. So for those of you that have joined me, let me know where you're hopping on from. Just drop either your country in the comments, or you can drop your city or your state, wherever you're hopping on from. I know I have an international audience, so whatever you feel comfortable with. So I see that Yvette is here. Hey, Yvette, how are you? Thanks for joining me tonight. So executive presence is something sometimes that women do seem to struggle with. And part of that is because of the definition, right? So we're going to get a little ahead of myself there. But part of that was because of the definition. So again, we're going to be exploring some essential executive presence, essential hacks that you need to know. So let's start with, what is executive presence? Okay. And so what do we mean? And so I have Raphael. Thanks for joining, Raphael, because it's like, oh wow, it's late there because you guys aren't you 6 ahead? Isn't it like 2 something in the morning, if I'm correct? That the UK, I think, is 6 hours ahead of New York. So it's either it's either 2 in the morning or 1 in the morning, but either way, thank you for joining me. And we also have someone from Brooklyn, New York in the house. I love Brooklyn. My church, I used to go there, Apostolic Faith on 265 Lafayette. I even remember that address. Loved New York food, love hoagies, love hot dogs. That's my thing. Frank's, that is my thing. Thank you all so much for joining me. And I love the participation. So really, when we're talking about executive presence, it is that special quality that makes you stand out as a leader. It is a combination of how you act, but it's also how you speak. It is about how you look and how that comes off to people, and then how you respect the people around you. So it's not about you getting respect, but so Raphael said it's 1:39 in the morning. Okay, so you guys are 5 hours ahead. That is really early. Thank you so much for being here. I haven't made it to the UK yet. That is on my bucket list, though. Right. And so, again, executive presence isn't just about people got to respect me, it is also about how you respect others around you. That's a huge part of it. And some people miss that. Some people are, I want to say this in a nice way. Some people are buttholes and they think that that's what executive presence is. It isn't really. That is not what executive presence is about. Absolutely not. All right. It really, truly is not. Okay. So definitely it is about how you respect the people around you. I remember being at an event when I was a captain, young captain, and Colin Powell walked into the venue, right? And it was like this whisper and hush that just went throughout the place. He was he was speaking to his entourage, the folks that were directing him, getting him where he was supposed to be. So he never said a word to anybody. But because of his executive presence, a true hush just fell over it. And we were just like, let's call it out. Let's call it out. And people were just like, we were just shocked. It fell, right? That's what executive presence is. It really is about exuding confidence, being authentic, and making a positive impact on those around you, right? And so I asked a question: can you fake it till you make it? Should you fake it till you make it? The short answer is really yes, right? But yes, with the caveat. Executive presence is not about being fake. It's not about being inauthentic. It is also not pretending to be someone that you're not, like, oh, this person has executive presence, so I'm going to act like her. I'm going to act like him. Because no, that's not what executive presence is about, right? It's not about pretending that you're someone that you're not. It is about adopting behaviors and mindsets that help you develop your true executive presence over time, right? Anybody have come across people who are, they're fake because they're trying to be like someone else? It doesn't work. It doesn't come off as authentic. And executive presence is truly authentic, right? So let's jump into these hacks, right? So hack number 1, right? It is about, one of the first hacks is about mastering your body language, your postures, your gestures. Because if I was up here like this tonight going, y'all, let's talk about executive presence tonight. It's real important. I'm telling you, it is just so important. Your facial expressions are important. Nobody will stay for that. It's just, it would not come off, because you're going to you're going to forget what I'm saying, because you're paying attention to my posture and my body language and my gestures and my facial expressions, because all of those things speak volume before you ever say a word, or in spite of what people are saying, right? So really, is it about standing tall? It's not that you have to be tall. I'm 5'9". Typically, when I'm in heels, I'm like, 5'11", 6 foot, but it's not about being tall. It's about standing tall for your height, whatever that is. It is about understanding that you need to make eye contact with people, right? And it's about using the open gestures and not, standing there. People are trying to talk to you, and the whole time you're just like this, or you just got your head up because I'm stuff. Yeah, it's not about that either. It's about conveying confidence and conveying openness. Now, I'll be honest with you. I really struggled in my 20s, or all through my teens, and in my 20s into my 30s. I struggled with social anxiety, right? So making eye contact with people was a huge struggle for me, because when you have anxiety, you spend so much time doubting yourself, and you're worried about what other people think of you, that you don't make eye contact, right? And so let me just drop this secret, because I know a lot of you out there are introverts, or you have anxiety, whether or not it's social anxiety. It's just the type of anxiety that I have. But a secret trick, a secret hack that you can do is, rather than looking a person into his or her eyes, look at the space in between their eyes, or you can look at somewhere up here on their forehead. It works. People don't know if you're looking them dead on in the eyes, right? But it works, because if you're staring at someone between the eyes, that's close enough. Or if you're staring at anywhere on their forehead and here, it works, right? It feels less threatening when you have anxiety. And of course, when you have social anxiety, you're threatened by new people. You dread, or you fear people judging you and finding you wanting, so you don't want to look in people's eyes and see there what they may or may not think about you, or people are dismissive of you, that kind of thing, right? So it just feels so much less threatening, and no one really knows you're not looking at their eyes when you're looking at that space in between, or the forehead. So that's my little hack, how I was able to learn um, to maneuver through the eye contact thing. And I don't always feel like I'm in a space to meet people's eyes, right? So I don't have as much problems with it now, but sometimes I do. I do. Sometimes it rears its ugly little head up, and I have to use these tips and tricks to get through when I'm out and, mingling with hundreds or thousands of people. So they do work because it's what I use, right? So next, hack number 2, right? We're talking about how to communicate. Yes, you should definitely understand that communication is so key. Leaders with executive presence communicate with clarity and they communicate with conviction. Because let me know if you've ever worked for someone like this. I think we should do this, or well, maybe not. Maybe that's not a good idea. What do you feel we should? I'm not really sure. Yeah, maybe we should do. I don't know. Well, let's talk about that for. By the time they get done, you're like, just make a decision, please. Somewhere along the way, make a decision. You're so confused, and they're not. You don't really want to follow them because they don't know what they think. They can't even communicate one idea, communicate it confidently and with conviction so that you follow through, right? Leaders with executive presence know how to articulate their thoughts effectively, and they know how to inspire others with their words. And I got to tell you, if you knew me in my teens and my 20s, I would not be talking to you like this because I did not. It was really an uphill climb for me to learn to speak and use my words, right, with conviction and let my no's be no's and my yays be nay. And if and not be afraid to ask questions, because being a leader is not asking questions. You ask questions and gain clarity so that you can be decisive, right? And so what else is a huge part of communication? You got to practice active listening. It's not just about you doing all the talking, although I do love to talk if you hadn't figured that out, but really it's about active listening. This is a huge part of effective and clear communication. You need to be concise, yes, but you need to be impactful, yes, but you need to be able to listen to what people are saying to you, right? And be able to ask those questions. And so you can only ask relevant questions if you're doing active listening. And I know that in parts of my training, it's been referred to as listening with your whole body, right? If you want to know how to do active listening, you're listening with your entire body. And sometimes I might be sitting in a venue and I'm catching a little bit. I may do this, right? Because you flex your ears like that, you catch more of the sound waves, and you can really hear what people are saying. And sometimes you may not do this, but you may turn your ear and drop your head a little to the side, making that eye contact to let them know that you are indeed listening. You want to listen with your whole body. And know you've seen on some of these shows that if you're listening to someone and your feet are pointing in another direction, you really want to leave. You want to do something else but listen to that person. So again, listen with your entire body. Point your feet at that person and lean in and really be actively listening with your eyes, with your ears, with your body, right? All of that counts because, again, people will see your nonverbals before they see your verbals, right? So there you have it. So the next video, this is hack number 3. You do want to cultivate emotional intelligence, right? Emotional intelligence is such a key component of being of executive presence because it's about understanding where in the world on the map your emotions are, right? You got to know where yours are. And then it's also about tuning in to the emotions of others, right? I had a client and came to my session because I'm also a therapist in addition to being a coach. And I could see by the eyes. I knew something was wrong. I couldn't tell you what. And the client admitted, like, I'm not gonna go into what she said, but she's like, how did you know? I was like, I saw the eyes. I saw it in the eyes. When you have emotional intelligence, you know where you are, but you also know where the people around you are. And so I do have a comment. So Raphael says, interesting. So I wasn't sure, Raphael, you're talking about the body language, listening to with the whole body, with the feet pointed at the person. Yeah, it is pretty interesting. And I make sure that it is outside of clients. But sometimes I'm talking with family and friends and they kind of get a little long-winded. And if I'm not careful, my feet are pointing at the door because that's the direction that I want to go. And so I do have to check myself and check in, because executive presence is not just for, your professional life. It is also for your personal life. So I do have to check myself. So Raphael did say yes, body language, because there's so much in body language, and people will read your, what Shirzad Shamin calls your PQ channel. They will read your emotional channel before they read anything else, right? They're going to pay attention to what you say, how you're saying it before what you say. So it's all about the tone as well. As a therapist, when I used to do couples, I don't do couples anymore. I would sit and I would look in, one half of the couple is talking and the other one is this. They didn't have to say a word. you know, that body language speaks. So you gotta be careful and understand what your body is saying. What are your nonverbal saying, as well as what your verbals are saying? It's such an important thing, right? And that's when we're talking about. So we bring in that emotional intelligence, because leaders who can manage their own emotional composure can then empathize and communicate with their team members. And these members are more likely to be respected and followed. And, research says that women have higher emotional intelligence than men. And so women tend to be better leaders. I know a lot of people don't necessarily believe that, because when we talk about executive presence, part of that used to be how you looked, and how you looked was you were a white male and you looked like this as a white male. And women, especially Black women, will lose out when we talk about executive presence, because, well, none of us are white males. And so we've had to turn that around through the years and really talk about these 6 things that I'm talking about today that go into, you developing executive presence. Because it's not, executive presence is a journey. It's not I got it today and I've got it forever. You're consistently working, because you got to understand you're managing your own emotional composure, and you're being able to recognize others. And you could lose out if you don't practice and if you don't keep up with it, right? And so definitely, any questions or other comments, I do appreciate your questions and your comments. So we're going to show the next video here. And let's see if I've been keeping up where I'm supposed to. Yes. Hack number 4 is dress for success. So before we get caught up on dress, you have to dress for your particular environment. All right. One of my daughters is an engineer, so she doesn't go in a 3-piece suit or 2-piece suit in her heels and her stockings. That's not the environment she works in. So when we say dress for success, you got to take in the totality of your environment and what that means for you, because your appearance does play a role when we talk about executive presence. So dressing for success doesn't mean you got to be in a suit all the time. You should understand that work environment and be mindful how your attire and your grooming affects how you perceive, because it's not about the clothes. I remember being with someone and we were at a functional event, and they were dressed to the T, gorgeous. Handsome, I should say. Handsome, male, really great outfit. The suit was like pressing, it was clean and all that. But the grooming was not on point. And they lacked maybe a couple of weeks of using deodorant. And it was tough. It was tough being in that environment, because the attire was perfect. It was the scent, the body odor that drowned out anything that he had to say. So again, it's not just that you're dressed well, but you got to be groomed well as well. Groomed well as well. Yeah. Okay. Works for me. Hope it works for you. Again, here's the thing. If you're groomed well, but you're sitting in a closed door meeting and you're about to make people pass out because your body odor is lighting up the entire room, people tend to remember that. It drowns out anything else you're saying. So again, it's not dressing for success, but it is grooming for success. It depends on your job, because if you're in a sweaty job and everybody else around you is all stinky and sweaty, then you're right at home. There are people who have those jobs. But if not, you got to pay attention to those kinds of things, right? So hack number, I've lost it. Hack number 6. that's just weird when you put videos over here and they just disappear. But hack number 6 is be authentic. We talked about faking till you making, fake it till you make it a little earlier, right? It is, we talk fake it till you make it. It is about many times when you get a new job, which is why with my clients, I like to coach them 4 to 8 months because they get the job and then I can follow them through that new job because a lot of us get new job imposter syndrome. We do. That's very common. And so when we talk about faking it till we make it, it's like, no, your credentials, your resume, and your interview got this job. Yes, you can have new job imposter syndrome. In that case, you will fake it till you make it till you feel comfortable. But you can't fake it and develop executive presence. In other words, if you're trying to fake for the next 5 years and say that's executive presence, it doesn't work like that because true executive presence comes from being authentic. It comes from being genuine and true to yourself as well as those around you because you are embracing your unique strengths and values and not trying to embrace all the things that all the other people around you have. It is your unique strengths and your unique value because that's what you bring to the workplace. That's why when you interviewed, you did that resume, you were chosen because of your unique strengths and values. So you don't want to pretend to have something that everybody else got. You want to keep yours, right? And you let these strengths and these values, you let them shine through in your leadership. So do avoid trying to become someone else's leadership style. It just never ends well, and people can kind of figure out who you're trying to emulate anyway. And when you do that, you lose your authenticity. Okay. So definitely I remembered someone, and I've changed the name. Anita always stayed true to her values, right? And was a little bit nervous, kind of sort of like I was. But what she did was to be authentic. She learned to tell stories, which is actually also what I did as well. I don't tell jokes very well because if it's funny, I'm laughing too hard at the joke. You'll never get it because I'm still laughing. And, people let me know that all the time. But really, she started telling stories that resonated with her team about a time when she was in their place and some of the mistakes that she made. She was actually able to foster authenticity with her team, and they began to trust and they were loyal to her. And it inspired them to achieve their best because executive presence is not coming off like you're perfect and you've never made a mistake. Not what executive presence is. All right. Not at all what it is. You do have foibles, and storytelling is such a great way to get that authenticity and share it with your team. And for me, I started telling stories because, again, I had anxiety and I was not approachable. How that came off is I just wasn't approachable to people. They felt like I was like this all the time. It's like just right dressed, right? And so one of the ways, speaking to someone that I had to come up with, because I wasn't a jokey person, I know they say, oh, tell jokes because laughter does release hormones, certain chemicals, and it makes you feel good and it helps people to relax. But I'm not a jokey person. So what I did learn to do was tell stories and to stop from coming off as perfect. Sometimes those stories will be about mistakes that I made either at the job or somewhere coming up in my lifetime somewhere. And people told me that those stories, they'll still come back to me and say, LT, you remember when? And they will remember those stories. People will come back and remember those stories because they make me human. And that's what, when you're developing executive presence, is about being human. Yes, you come off with authority and you want to be clear, you want to be decisive in your decision making, you want to do all these things, but you also want to be human. You don't want to be a superhuman so much so that people go, well, I'll never be that good, and they just give up trying, or they just think you're perfect and what's the point? You want to be human in that, right? And again, at the top of the session, I talked about it is about having the people around you respect you and how you respect them and create value in them, and you inspire them as well. All right. So hack number 6, I've lost my video over here, but that's okay because, well, I know what hack number 6 is. We're talking about decisiveness. Now, I did allude to this a little bit before because it just drives me crazy. When I was in the military or I worked for folks who were indecisive, it just Oh, that was a pet peeve of mine. Leaders with executive presence are decisive. They gather the necessary information, right? Think delegation, though. This is not because you know it all. Think delegation. You're not just relying on yourself here, but you are delegating and telling the folks around you that you trust them too. You get that information and you look at it, you weigh the options, you analyze it, and then you make clear, confident decisions, right? We talk about before when I gave the example how some people's like, oh, I think we should do this. I mean, don't you think we should do that? Do you think that's a good idea? Maybe it's not a good idea. Are you sure? That's not being decisive, and people don't want to trust someone who kind of flip-flops. We all have heard of politicians who flip-flop. Today they believe this, tomorrow they believe that, and something is between, and then the next day is something else. They're not being decisive, right? And so how do you do that? You practice daily being decisive in your everyday life. And when you do that, it will translate into your leadership, right? Again, it's about, the smaller decisions before you go and second guess yourself. I think we should do this. Oh, do you think that's a good idea? Is that really? Gather the facts first. You got the 7-step decision making model. There's some 9 steps out there, some 5 steps, but I was trained on the 7. And typically when I coach folks, and I do train them on the 7-step decision making model because it just seems to be an easier way to do it. Go through that model. You didn't just learn that somewhere in your undergrad course, or really, I remember getting that in my health education class too, way back when, too far back when for me to discuss that with y'all right now. But it works. If you struggle with being decisive, use the decision making model. Why? Because it works. You'll be surprised at how quickly you will have the ability to make decisions that are decisive. And here's the thing: in the back of your mind, say, if I make a decision, it's not the quite one. Well, reevaluate the options and go at it again. Don't just give up. I made a mistake. The world's coming to an end. No, my battalion commander, my 2nd battalion commander, said something that I have never forgotten. He said there are 2 types of people who make it to general. The first type is the one who makes all the right decisions and they become general. He said the second type is the person who makes no decisions. Don't be the no decision person. Right? Don't be that person. But it's okay to make mistakes, correct them, own up to them, have the integrity, own up to it, make the correction, and keep it moving. Right? Because at the end of the day, people lack confidence in leaders who struggle to make decisive decisions. That's just the bottom line of where it is, right? And so, in conclusion, while you can fake it till you make it to some extent, the goal is really to develop genuine executive presence through practice and self awareness in each of these 6 hacks that I've talked about. Now, if you'd like to dive a little deeper into this topic, I do have a blog out there. I'm going to drop that in the comments. It is just much more extensive than than what I've covered here. And again, let's see. Put it out there. Can I show it up there on the screen? Yep. Let's try that again because I missed it. So let's go back. I hate when that happens, but let's try it again. And maybe, let's see. Let's pop it there. There we go. Now, some of you will see this right off. I'll go back to all the different platforms and I will put that out there for you. It looks like it put it on 2 different pages. So let's do this. Let's try it one more again, as I like to say. See, that was a mistake. Now, before I would have just panicked and had a fit and cried for probably the next 4 months, because that's just what social anxiety does. It makes you question, it makes you doubt, and when you make a mistake in front of people, you just ruminate over it. And for me, it will be 4 to 6 months after a mistake. So I'm glad to say I don't do that anymore. Thankfully, I do not. But if you're out there, and you do struggle with anxiety, go ahead and call me up, right? Because I can help. All right. I know the journey that you're going. So again, there's a deeper dive into the topic. There's the entire link right there. For more insights, you can just go to TawannaCarter.com and click on the blog, and it'll be the top blog where I talk about how to master executive presence and command the room. So, you might not be quite a Colin Powell, but you can come darn close to it, right? And that's what's important, right? And so I do want to again want to say thank you again for joining me. Thank you for making it all the way through the end. Remember that leadership is a journey. Executive presence is a journey. It's not a destination that you get to and you're done. It is actually a process and a journey. And I am here to support you every step of the way. Until the next time, go ahead and take care. Lead with confidence and lead with composure, right? So if I'll stick around for a couple more moments, if you have some questions or anything out there, comments, I love it. If you haven't already done so, if you found value in this live, go ahead and give me a thumbs up or click the like button and subscribe to my channel. We'd be honored to have you. All right. So that's what I have for this week. Thank you. And I'll see you on the next one.